Joining me now on the news is energy consultant Sheson Okwade, who is live in our Lagos studio. Good to have you join us, Sheson. Now, what's your first reaction to this downward adjustment of the price of petrol from 145 naira per litre to 125 at a time when there's so much of controversy over fuel subsidy, the landing cost of petrol, and a whole lot more? How sustainable is this amidst the coronavirus pandemic and managing the situation?
Yeah, thank you, David. Considering the fact that we are aware of the pandemic that we are experiencing with the COVID-19, it's inevitable, considering that the oil price has actually gone down, and it's part of what we've been saying before now in the aspect of deregulating that sector, where the forces of demand and supply has to play out. And if you look at it, as at yesterday, the price of crude oil dropped to about $28 per barrel, which inevitably, with the pandemic that we have, it's going to create hardship on everyone because we need this even to survive. If you look at this part of the world, we need the fuel for our cars, we need the fuel to power our generators, we need the fuel for several things. And it is the masses that are going to get the brunt. So there is nothing the federal government can do than to reduce this. And considering the fact that we've been talking about subsidy, I'm sure the marketers will have reaction to this because the landing cost before now has actually been subsidized, and you're going below the actual price. But we had the Minister for State coming on board that we are going to create a modular way of absorbing this cost, which definitely the federal government will have to bear. For me, it's really not an interesting time for federal government, considering the price of crude oil going down and looking for a way to alleviate the problem that people are facing. So it's really not an interesting time, but it's a welcome idea, it's a welcome development, at least to alleviate the suffering of the people.
Now, Sheson, we talked about the price modulation mechanism, but understanding the volatility within the market now, do you think we can adequately put in structures, mechanisms in place to be able to then modulate as well? As the market rises, the price rises, and as it drops, it also drops. Do you think we've built that culture to be able to say that we would believe in this new initiative, the price modulation mechanism being put in place by the federal government now, introducing this?
The price modulation at this point in time may really not be a best, this timing may not be the best time to adopt this particular thing, because considering the fact that the economy is very volatile, it's very fragile, and we have not prepared for this before now. So we will still leave it in the hands of the government to do some of these things. But after the oil crisis and things picks up, we will definitely look at a considerable time. The federal government will consider, but when you bring that in place now, it will definitely come down, and when it rises up, we may not be able to have that shock. The masses may not have the shock. That response will be too hard on people to do, because for now we are just saying it that it's gone down to 28. As soon as it rises up to about 50 something per barrel and the thing goes up, definitely, because we don't have a refinery functional, we are actually importing some of these things. It will definitely tell on us. But those modular pricing can be effective if, as we produce the crude oil, we refine here in the country. But because we are importing some of these things, definitely the modular pricing will create more hardship for the masses than the benefit that is expected of it.
Thank you very much for your contributions, Sheson Okwade, energy consultant. We'll definitely have a bigger conversation much more later. Well, joining me now is energy consultant Sheson Okwade, who is here to discuss much more on this burning issue. Thank you very much for your time, Sheson. Now, in terms of compliance, yes, the directive has been issued across all NNPC retail stations, but to what extent do you expect to see a stronger compliance across board with this new slash in pump price of petrol?
Definitely the oil marketers and everyone needs to key into it. It's a directive from the federal government, and from what we heard from the NNPC GMD, that the price at which they will be giving it out, definitely. We know so many of them have stock before now. Definitely there are always way of managing this. You and I know that if it's a price increase, no one will definitely complain. that the old stock need to be closed out. So there's a way this actually fizzle out, and we expect that the DPR will follow out to make sure that every filling station comply to this so that we can have the relief as granted by the federal government.
And you made mention of the Department of Petroleum Resources in terms of sensitization now and managing the situation. One would say the average Nigerian rushes at the slightest information. Now with this drop in price of petrol per litre going for 125 naira, it is expected that we'll see influx of people and attempted storage of the product. What's your word as well to the DPR in terms of sensitization and ensuring that we still have regulations, especially with the purchase of this product as well?
Yeah, the DPR has a lot of work to do, and I think the Public Relations Department will need to create this awareness that it's not an avenue for people to now buy and save, thinking that as soon as there is increase. As we speak, there is going to be a reduction in these prices. What we've been advocating for before now is to make sure that the government follow the template, this price modulation. It's just the forces of demand and supply. If that has been in place by now, definitely you will see us buying fuel as low as 80 or 70 naira. But because majority of our refinery is not on board, it's pretty difficult that majority of the crude oil, you need to push it out, refine and bring back, which are additional cost. But if our refinery are very much okay and the law of demand and supply have played into role, this is the time where fuel should not go beyond 50 or 60 naira for everybody to do. So I will encourage that the people should not go about, preserving fuel. If you do that, it's at your detriment, because if from what the Minister of State for Petroleum said, it's most likely if the price go down for us to go lower and lower, and it will not be of benefit. And considering the hazard that if you store some of this product is going to cost on us, it's advisable that anybody should not do that.
The implications definitely hold far more devastating consequences. Thank you very much for your time, Sheson Okwade, energy consultant, and hopefully we'll take a look at the price modulation mechanism being set in place by the federal government.